Now this is Christmas time. Venice in a vida, Gospero and new Venice down. May one always see you a Merry Christmas. May one always see you a Merry Christmas. May one always see you a Merry.
Thank you for staying with us. Well, as you know, on Wednesday, Professor Charles Soludo was declared the winner of the Anambra governorship election. He won 19 of the 21 local government areas of the state. And you know that his victory came on the heels of a very fiercely contested election, which even spilled over till Wednesday when there was a supplementary election.
It was Tuesday, but I think the announcement was made on Wednesday.
Yeah. Tuesday, the election in Ihiala, supplementary election. So we're going to be looking at that this morning. So what do we expect from this new government? And actually, we saw the Situation Room and all that during the elections. And by and large, the election was thought to have been free and fair. How true is that? We're going to be asking some more people to give us their opinion about the elections and where do we go from there. We have with us in the studio Lawrence Onozulike, who's President, Igbos for a Progressive Nigeria, IPAN. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us.
Thanks very much.
You limped into the studio and you said, were you fighting during the election or what?
Not really, but the situation in Anambra State, though it was peaceful during the election in my area, Oka North side, but the tension was high, that even if you hear small sound, everybody will. So
well, thank God it was just small sounds you heard.
So it was
and
okay.
Everything went peacefully.
No, it was very okay. It was very, very peaceful.
Yes. Now, joining us virtually, we have the essay to Governor Obiano on political matters, Barrister Ifatu Obi-Okoye. Good morning.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure to be here this morning.
Okay. We also have the APC Publicity Secretary in Anambra State, Mr. Okelo Madukaife. Good morning.
Yeah. Good morning, Nigeria. Good morning, channels.
Okay, whatever that means.
Well, he wasn't talking to you, he was talking to India Anambra.
That's true, that's true. India Anambra, okay. They hear you, they hear you.
We heard you.
Well, let me start with Lawrence. Lawrence, so you were in Anambra during
yes.
Even though you live in Lagos, right?
Yeah, but because of IPAN, I stay more in Anambra these days, especially during the election, because we wanted to make sure that everything went peaceful and well.
So you were in Anambra during the elections.
I was. Yeah.
What was your impression of everything that happened?
At the end, my impression that it was a very nice election. The people feel like it's one of the best because they felt like the winner was the person they voted for. So maybe political parties can say different things, but Anambra people believe that for the first time their votes counted.
Okay. Did people really come out to vote?
You know, in Anambra, people never really always come out to vote. They never.
Why is that?
I don't know. Maybe it's this feeling that my vote will never count. And before the election, we had a lot of TV programs, IPAN did, and a whole lot of other CSOs trying to sensitize people on the need to come out. So this is what has been lacking in Anambra State. There have to be an education informing the people on reasons to come out and vote. We don't have this before, so a lot of people feel like their votes don't count. And of course, the violence that comes with the elections in Nigeria.
But there was no violence this time,
No,
was
this
there?
time there wasn't. And that's very,
so it was the fear of...
Yes, that it might happen.
Fear of the unknown.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it went very well. We're very proud of what happened. And we hope that from this time onwards, people will start coming out to vote. Because it's very, very critical. So,
the results that came out reflected the choice of the people.
yes, people are very happy with what across parties. I mean, the masses, not the politicians.
Okay, let me ask the APC Publicity Secretary the same question. Mr. Madukaife, did you think that the result was a reflection of the wish of the people?
Thank you very much. This is a very technical question, and I'm very glad that someone is preempting us already. He said the political parties can say different things. Yes, naturally. The political parties will say different things because they are in the field. They spend more time on these things, and they take it like a pastime, quite unlike others who just watch and move on. Yes, your question is a technical one, and choosing my words very carefully, I would say it is difficult to establish whether the results that we have is the wish of the people to the extent that the votes that counted, roughly about 200,000 votes, is a minority of the Anambra voting population that came out to vote. And the factor was the new BVS, which has proved untested. So it rejected more people than it accepted. And if democracy is still a game of numbers, then one would say that those people who were unaccounted for in the results that were announced should count in the opinions that were air as a political party. But to the extent that the accepted results in terms of sampling results were announced, it is acceptable to us. But it is important that we create these backgrounds so that no one goes away feeling that INEC has done well, because they will take it to the bank and begin to celebrate, and at the end of the day, when you have another election, it still meets us, the same unresolved issues. So to summarize this view in this segment, number one, it does not reflect the majority of views of people because the majority were not captured. But the sample captured, it reflects the wish of their votes. Thank you.
Mr. Madukaife, I beg your pardon, but like you said, it's a game of numbers. So if 10,000 are registered and only 50 turn out, the results will be based on only the 50 who turned out.
Thank you. Let's take it in 3 layers. You took it in 2. If social number is registered, and then so turn out, and then another so are accepted to vote. That's the point I'm making, that middle population. The number that is registered, the number that turned out to vote, and the number that were captured to vote because of the glitches and hitches in the machine. In other words, our submission, which has been done in our comprehensive reaction to the election, is that INEC ought to have done a pilot project to test the workings of the machine. And to that extent, it was unfair to the people of Anambra State. When we say free and fair, we are talking of freeness, free of overwhelming hitches, and fair to the people, not necessarily fair to political parties. Because let's put this in perspective, it has an influence on ability to mobilize people to vote in future. I just heard somebody say Anambra people don't troop out. There are factors. And another person said correctly because they were feeling that their votes don't count. Now, so what is the feeling for that person, never mind the elite, who can insist, that person who is not so enlightened, but who having been reluctantly accepted to come out and vote, was sure that in the polling unit where he or she voted 4 years ago was not allowed to vote for something she could not understand. That's the point.
Well, Mr. Madukaife, before we bring in the essay to the governor on this issue, if you would recall, one of the units in an electoral process responsible for voter education are the political parties. INEC has a role to play, but so do the political parties. So the question to you then is, how much political education did your party engage in for 2 things? Number one, to educate people on their civic responsibility. And number two, to canvass votes. You definitely went out to canvass votes, but was there a time that your party did a significant work in educating people about the need for them to come out and exercise their civic rights?
Thank you very much. Let us start from the statute and then go to the volunteerism part of it. It is the duty of INEC, through its voter enlightenment department, to enlighten voters. Now, just like you have government and you have non-governmental organizations, there are certain things that governments don't do, but NGOs take it up on their own, on volunteer basis. That's what political parties do. And so while they can go ahead and discharge that responsibility, which we did, they cannot take responsibility for failures in that direction.
Are you saying that the political party does not have any duty to educate voters?
No statutory responsibility.
But isn't that a moral responsibility?
Duty is a softer word. Yes, duty or obligation, we did it. But we won't take responsibility for enlightening voters. In any case, voters are not complaining of enlightenment to the extent that the security issues that dominated the build-up to the election allowed. Nobody is complaining. The point here is that voters did come out. But okay. For instance,
you said voters did come out. Just a second. You said voters didn't come out, and yet you are saying voters didn't come out en masse. You listened to Mr. Onuzulike here, who was saying that there was, as far as he is concerned, not enough people came out for one reason: voter apathy. Okay? And it's something that's been happening over the years. So one wonders how really you want to appeal to people when they do not feel, one, that their votes would count, and two, justice, payments, dividends for the votes that they've cast before.
I'm only addressing this issue in terms of relativism. I've acknowledged that there is a voter register and there's a total number. And the people that emanate to come out are a far cry from that voter register. And again, the people that manage to be accepted and to vote, for instance, Oba community is 40% of the vote in the Idemili South local government area. Oba did not vote. Akuku is another community, they didn't vote. Ichi, as a whole town, did not vote, and they did not have an opportunity for rerun. These are things that we must capture, otherwise they will happen again. We must be able to check why did they happen. So it's not about enlightening the people of Oba to come out. They came out, but they could not vote. Just like Ihiala, which was repeated. But Oba never got such an opportunity. Akuku did not get that opportunity. Ichi did not get that opportunity. So if we just go ahead, open our mouth and say what everybody on the street is saying, that things are fine and all right, which I have already established that political parties will not do, then we will be wrong, because they will not be providing an opportunity for improvement in the future. So it is not so much about who came out or who did not. There are three layers: the registered voters, the voters that turned up, and the voters that were accepted by the machine, and those that were rejected but duly registered there.
Okay. Well, sounds like your party wants to go challenge this at the next level. But let's bring in the essay to Governor Obiano on political matters to this. Pastor Okoye, a lot of people have said a lot of things about the elections in Anambra State. So, where you sit, well, it's natural to expect that you will praise it, but let's hear you out.
Yes, as much as it's natural that I will praise it, but I think we need to do a fair appraisal. The most significant thing about this election was the ability of INEC and all the relevant institutions to conduct the election on the 6th of November. Prior to the 6th, there were many challenges. There was this sit-at-home challenge by IPOP. There was, of course, the threats by unknown government. There was, of course, the challenge from the statement of the Attorney General, and so on and so forth. So all this rubbed off on the ability of INEC to even prepare for the election. I recall that during the process of recruitment of APOC staff, Anambra State came short of the required staff because a lot of people were scared participating. INEC had to get staff, as it were, from around the country, neighboring states, up to Akwa Ibom, Edo, so on, in order to make up the number. This also affected the vehicular aspect of running the election. The transport owners were apprehensive. They were not too sure about the safety. And so it was difficult getting vehicles for INEC. If not for the assistance of government, maybe INEC would not have had enough vehicular transport. So having the election in the first place on the 6th was the most important thing and the most credible thing each and every one of us as stakeholders must acknowledge. I appreciate the fact that my brother who just spoke, the question was not technical. I think what was technical were his answers. In every election, there are always registered voters. In Anambra State, we have over 2 million registered voters. And it's always been like that, over 2 million. But have we ever been able to produce a governor with up to 500,000 votes? No. 400,000 votes? No. 300,000 votes? No, none before. So that has always been the pattern. Over 2 million registered voters. At the end of the day, you find out that those that really come out to vote, for one reason or the other, are always below 500,000 people. That has been the pattern in Anambra. That has been the apathy of the Anambra people. Maybe because of the mercantile nature. People prefer to go about trading. They have not understood the importance of participating in this civic responsibility. But what comes to mind is how credible was this election?
But before you go on, Barrister, just a second, Barrister, before you go on. One of the critical issues raised for voter apathy this time around was insecurity. People were apprehensive, people were uncertain. And in the run-up to the elections, a good number of people, came out to say, this whole thing is politically motivated. All of the insecurity was politically motivated. Some of these comments even attributed to governors in the Southeast. So one wonders, to what end? If it is so, assuming.
This particular situation we had in the last election was peculiar. Before now, we've never had a situation like that. We've never had that level of violence, real violence. Quite a number of people were killed. Unknown gunmen were all over the place, attacking even politicians. Politicians could not even campaign with their vehicles. A couple of vehicles of political parties were burnt on the highway. People were killed. So the build-up was totally apprehensive. But I must tell you, what surprised me on the election day, and my friend from APC, who incidentally comes from the same ward as I do, will acknowledge this fact that the voter turnout on the 6th was really impressive. It may not have been really high, but it was really impressive. If one has any reason to criticize what happened on the 6th, it is the fact that the new BVS machine, the accreditation machine, was a bit slow, and in some places did not work as fast as we would have expected. But INEC staff tried their best. They went around repairing them and putting them in order for people to vote. You will expect that when a new experiment comes up. But that altogether did not affect the credibility, fairness of the election in any way, because whatever happened was common to everybody. And like somebody said, if 20 people came out to vote, your result must be based on 20 people. Your popularity must be based on that. It is not only when 1,000 people come that you become popular. At the end of the day, we had a very credible election, and the best.
Oh dear. Well, I'm pretty sure that we'll have him back shortly. Well, Mr. Onuzulike.
Can I add something to what they're saying?
Okay, go ahead.
Because I think Anambra people must be commended for what just happened. Because when everything is okay, the security situation is okay, we used to have like 300,000 people coming out to vote. With this a situation like war zone, we have like 250,000 people coming out to vote. I think they should be commended. And the issue of technical issues with election equipment, no party was singled out. It happened across all parties. BVS didn't choose APC against, it just happened to everybody. So it shouldn't be like they singled out a political party. I think in all, the election was good, free and fair. So.
Lawrence, if there are over 2 million registered voters and only about 250 came out, Mr. Okoye referred to the mercantile nature of the people. But if, for instance, they are convinced that their vote would count, do you not think that going forward, the next election should witness more than 250, because more people will believe that their vote will count and they will therefore come out to vote?
Naturally, it should, and it will, because the zeal showed by the people, even during voter registration in Anambra State, showed that people are now ready to start voting. So it's the security situation. This, like he said, is a peculiar situation. I don't think this will happen again in the next 4 years. Anambra people are becoming very enlightened. They are beginning to decide who will lead and who will not lead them. So it's not more like before that. We don't care. As long as the market is open, we open our shop. No, they are becoming more enlightened, more educated, more informed. They are ready and they are willing. What happened was, with the war zone-like area, like I keep repeating, and 250,000 came out, it shows that people are defiant. They are ready to do something. And next 4 years, a lot will come out.
Okay. Well, Mr. Biokoye, one wonders, you know, what are the lessons that you would say that we have learned from this experience that we've had in Anambra State? Well, you are essay to the governor on political matters, so you must know more than a thing or two about, you know, politics in Nigeria. So if you're going to offer counsel about this, how do we go about it? In Anambra, as you said, 2.5 million voters or so. There are arguments about how many of those 2.5 million voters in Anambra are alive. There are those who are talking about cleaning up the voter register, you know, general, the national voter register, 84 million or thereabout. So many are wondering how many have they been able to do anything to sweep the register to ensure that indeed the number of people who vote are the people that are on that register. So if you were going to offer counsel specifically talking about Anambra State now, what would be your counsel on facilitating increased voter participation on election day? What are the lessons that you would say we have learned?
I like this question because one thing we must take home from this election was that the votes of the people counted. I must tell you that part of the apathy, one of the critical reasons for the apathy has always been that votes never really counted. People will come out to vote, and at the end, results will start coming in from here and there. But the new system introduced by INEC clearly enabled votes to count. So building on that, you will now begin to see that people will begin to show more interest in coming to express their franchise. The acclaim that came from the election of Professor Soludo, you could see that it was very popular. That was the feeling of the people. That was the vote given out by the people. And with time, when people begin to notice that their votes will count, you will see that the interest will increase. It never used to be like this. like you mentioned, I was part of the Second Republic. I was in the MPP in those days of MPP, MPN. People really came out to vote because they knew their votes would count until something happened in 1983. That was when this rigging process in Nigeria started. After the 1983 election, people gradually started losing interest in voting because they were not sure their votes will really count. It got worse in 2007 under Professor Morrissey Iwu. But we hope that what we witnessed on the 6th and the 9th is going to bring the people back, because the beaver system, if you are not captured by the beaver deals, your votes will not count. So one thing everybody would say, whether you lost or won, is that every vote that came in on the 6th of November counted. And that is good for democracy.
Okay. Mr. Madukaife,
Yes,
your party, even after congratulating Professor Soludo, has said that they do not accept the results. On what basis, please?
Thank you very much. Yeah, before addressing your question, let me first of all commend Barrister Okoye for agreeing with me on the impressive turnout of voters and the malfunction of the machine, which reduced the number that eventually voted. I have been reluctant to use figures, but I think that if I don't, there will be a misguide. So let's say that 410,000 voters roughly decided the 2013 Anambra governorship election. About 470,000 decided the 2017 elections. And by our own estimation from the control room, about 595,000 people came out. But around roughly less than 250 people were allowed to vote. That's the pointed point we needed to make. Now, to your question,
what's the source of this information that you just gave out? Because even according to the INEC,
our control room,
your control room,
yes,
APC control room.
Oh yes, of course.
Okay, but how do we factor that into the INEC database?
We will not factor it into INEC database. We'll factor it into the public consciousness for the future. I heard you say something about going to the next level. There's nothing like that. And we have said that to the extent of the number of votes that were counted, and considering the tension created by security, created by other factors in this election like no other, we have congratulated the winner. So coming to the issue of having contradiction, I don't think there's any contradiction. We have congratulated the winner. We have told him that we will hold him accountable for every promise made verbally or in written format, and that we will go back to our struggle for Anambra people to have local governments elected according to the demands of the Section 7 of the Constitution and as decided by the Supreme Court.
This info is emanating from your control room, but of course you can easily be accused of being prejudiced.
Can I come in here?
Well, that is why I was not using the figure. They were private to us, but I didn't want us to be misled. When you begin to say that that's always the pattern, I needed you to see that we went from 410 to 470, and we went further up, but dropped in voting pattern. And it will form the subject of studies. We are not imposing those figures on INEC. We are only using it here for purposes of illustration. So accuse me of prejudice, if you will. After all, the gentleman in the studio, my brother, my own brother, says that they came out to vote because of Soludo's support. That is partisan. I don't want to join issues there. That's his own prejudice. So one prejudice meets another, and there's a balance.
In 2010, but my apologies, Barrister Okoye. Let's just talk about these figures.
I wanted to correct that.
Just what you will. But Mr. Madukife, in 2010,
yes, please.
Only 16% of voters in Anambra State came out. In 2013, it rose to 25%. In 2017, it declined to 22%.
Thank you.
Yes.
So in terms of figures, would you say that's progressive or retrogressive?
No, I would like you to go one step further because not everybody is adept at percentages. Now, what did 16% translate to? What did 22% translate to in absolute figures?
16% of the voters in Anambra State in this particular year we are talking about was less than 2 million. Same for the subsequent year.
Was less than what?
Was less than 2 million.
No, 2 million have never turned out to vote. Let's not be bogus.
Nah, you're talking about us looking at 16% of what? And that's what I'm talking about here.
Yeah,
16% of the total number of voters. We're talking about the total number of voters on the INEC register.
Yeah, so what did it translate to? How many voters?
No, we are talking about the voter register here. The voter register according to the official voter register, according to INEC, not according to APC control room.
I am not contesting what you're saying.
Okay.
I'm only asking you to help the viewers appreciate us. When you say 16%, what did it turn out to figures so that I would know whether it's faulting the absolute figures I gave?
I'm sincerely trying to understand what you're talking about, so I really cannot.
I can help you.
Okay, I said that I'm very sure that in 2013, 410 persons from Anambra State voted, and that it went up to roughly 470,000 4 years after in 2017. Now, if these percentages translate to faulting these absolute figures, then we'll have something to discuss more. But if they confirm them, then there's nothing to contest anymore. The point I really want us to understand is that as far as the consciousness grows in our state, so do more voters come out. And again, despite all the security challenges, I need you to notice that this particular race was contested by a reduced number of political parties. So at the end, in our own estimation, it was a 9-horse race. Now, when you have 9 active candidates, calling people on phone, transmitting their information in the media, it boosts the turnout. So the whole essence of what I'm saying is for future application, let's not go away with an impression that 200,000 or 250,000 people came out to vote in Anambra State. No, we are guided by the work we have done on the ground to suggest that it is nearly 600,000. But using Anambra as a pilot scheme, trash down the number of voters.
In Anambra State in 2010, the number of registered voters was 1.84 million.
Yeah, that should be
the number of people who came out to vote in the voter turnout in that particular year was 301,232, 16%.
That's an indictment on Abga.
You are asking for figures. You are not asking.
Got to do with it?
You are asking for figures. You are not asking for.
The figures are declared added up to 410.
Okay, you know what? Let me bring in Barrister. Just a second. Let's bring in Barrister Okoye. I think he has a thing or two to say about this. Go ahead, please. Barrister Okoye. Okay. Okay. If you can unmute yourself, please, so we can hear you, Barrister Okoye. Can you hear me?
You?
Okay, yeah, we can hear you now. Go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
Okay. In 2010, that you referred to, I don't know whether my brother from the APC understands that P2B, who won the election, won the election with...
Are we discussing 2010 or 2013?
No, just allow him to talk, Mr. Madukife. Just to hold on, Mr. Madukife. Let him speak.
I'm sure I'm not having a dialogue with Madukife, and I'm speaking to the rest of Nigeria. In 2010, when apparently he was not around, maybe he was still in school, P2B won that election with 92,000 votes, and the total voter turnout, this is real statistics, was 273. That was what was in 2010. And nobody made any noise about it because the people that came out and voted for the person of their choice. It's not about how many people are registered. It's about the people who come out, who did they choose.
Yeah.
If 10 people come out, then they decide the result of the election. You don't force people to come out. And it's not an index of popularity or unpopularity if a high or low number does not come out. It is the number that comes out that decides who wins. In this election, we all agree there were obvious challenges going to the election. It was a peculiar situation. We've never had a situation like that where people were threatening that there would be a sit at home. People were threatening the whole states with guns, firearms, and things like that. But on the 6th, what is remarkable, like I said before, people came out in measurable numbers, very good numbers. And INEC, given all the circumstances, did its best. Like has been mentioned before, if for any reason the machines did not work properly in any place, it was not peculiar to any particular political party. And nobody can really complain about that. At the end of the day, what we have been able to achieve in this election is that for once in Anambra State, the votes counted. The votes of the people counted. The question of manipulation of votes, manufacturing of votes, we have gone past that. We will only encourage INEC to improve on the new technology. That is the much we can do as responsible stakeholders. And moving forward, we're expecting that in the next election, with a better performance of the device, people will now grow in confidence, showing very well that their votes counted in the last election. That is what we expect from everybody. And we hope that APC, the leader, the national leader of APC has congratulated. The state leader of APC has also congratulated. But we hear people still talking about going to court. Well, people have their rights. When you read some of the things, the complaints, one of them said, with the avalanche of stakeholders that moved from APGA to APC, that now could we have won the election? That is one mistake they keep making with APGA. APGA is not like the usual political party. APGA is more like a movement for people, driven by a special passion, driven by a special sub-regional passion, if not religious passion. But each time they look at APGA like a normal political party. So it doesn't matter how many people that leave. The deputy governor, when he left, we said good riddance, because we know he never used to win his election. And we were proved right. He lost in his polling booths. The man that made the publication for APC, Dr. Jerry Ugokwe, lost in his polling booths, lost in Onobi, and lost in his local government. This as a product of the credibility of the election. It's no more, we've come past the days people go and manufacture votes and come out and make noise. So for everything, let's move forward as a people. Haven't had a very credible election. Let's support the new governor based on terms of advancing the livelihood of the people of Anambra State. The APC cannot determine the basis of the success of the new government. The people of Anambra State understand the contract upon which they have voted for him. These are the things we need moving forward.
Okay. Mr. Madukaife, the election has been lost and won. Now we have to move on. Work has to start. What, in your estimation, is the expectation, or what are the expectations of the Anambra people of their new leader?
Thank you very much. First, let me correct certain impressions. I quoted 3 figures when it comes to votes that counted. That was 2013, that was 2017, and that of 2021. In response, 2010 was infused into it. And someone went as far as saying whether I was in school. Yes, I may have been in school, but I was in the field. It was my calculation that produced that P2B won 25% of the vote cast in 12 local government areas, and therefore didn't win that election. But that aside, the issue I raised, I want to thank everyone for not faulting the figures, because we're talking about 2013, 2017, and 2021. But because we must address the issue you are raising, that means going to the future. Let me first of all say that the Jerry Dokwe he mentioned never spoke for APC and can never be empowered to speak for APC. He skipped the position of the APC as stated by me and signed by me in a statement illustrated in a world press conference and repeated here. I don't know why he did that. For having said that, since 1999, Anambra State has never held a local government election, with the result that the state government appropriates funds meant for the local government. The last we checked, covering 7 years, it amounts to 247.1 billion naira. And what they do is that they give some pittance to people they appoint as so-called caretaker committee, so just to settle the salaries and wages of some local government staff, and the place remains prostrate. No election, no checks and balances. So that is one of the major planks we had going into this election, and we're going to hold them accountable because it is a matter already settled by the Constitution and the Supreme Court. If that is all that we achieve while being the only opposition party in Anambra State outside the election period, then we will be happy that the people are with us. So let's not preach to the choir. The APC has congratulated the winner of this election based on the background and the factors that were stated. But in the context of the Electoral Act, there are two legal persons who can go to court to challenge this process. One is the party, the other is the candidate. The right of one does not obliterate the right of the other. So we concede anyone who may be willing to challenge it. But our advice is to be indoors. Thank you.
Okay. Well, we'll take a short break, gentlemen, to maybe simmer a little of these things, let them sink in for a little bit. I will return to draw some conclusions. Please stay with us. Hello, bros. Well, thanks for staying with us. So this conversation, I mean, the title of our discussion is Anambra Governorship Election, A New Dawn. And clearly, there's been some differences, largely accredited to be, acclaimed to be free and fair, and of course, credible. So, Mr. Anuzulike, talking about expectations, as you have said, this is who the people want. Question then is, what are the expectations? You said earlier that the reason people don't normally come out to vote is they are dissatisfied with performance before they are not sure that their votes will count, and they're not happy with the way their lives have been run from the various governments over time, so they don't come out to vote. I mean, it's evidence in the data that we've been struggling with all the while. So the question then is, what are the expectations? How optimistic are you? Are the people that this time around, the votes that has counted will count for something?
Please, I will come back for this, but let me quickly address something that I was accused of sitting here and supporting Soludo, and that won't go very well with our organization. I represent Igbos for a Progressive Nigeria, IPAN, and we're apolitical. We don't support any political party. We say we say what we see, and general feeling in Anambra State is that people are happy that their vote counted. So,
and even APC seems to be happy because they have congratulated the
winner.
The winner.
Okay,
but they are not arguing with the result. They are just arguing with the process. At least that's the way it sounds. But he will speak to that for himself. But
okay, so coming to the expectations, the biggest wish we have.
Oh, he says that's correct. He said that's correct, right? You have issues not with the candidate that won, but with the process.
Yes.
Okay, all right, go ahead.
Okay. So the biggest issue we have in Anambra State right now is insecurity. And during the campaign, Soludo stated how he would tackle the security situation. So we expect him to implement what he said. So we are watching him closely. And when it comes to reviving or improving our economy in Anambra State, of course, he's an expert in that field. He has done a lot and we've seen what he can do.
In terms of economic improvement, what are the expectations?
I think he will do what we did with the central bank with our economy. He is very, very good at it, and he sits on board of many international bodies when it comes to economy, and we know that he is going to do. I don't think there's one particular thing we are hoping. We just want him to improve and revive Anambra State's economy. So he should get better from where he is today, because that's his field. So security, economy, and uniting our people is very important. He said a lot during the debate, and we're going to be watching to make sure that he implements those things. He says economy, security, uniting our people is, for me, is the priority. So I think
Uniting your people,
Yeah.
is there any issue regarding uniting, the unity of the people?
Yeah, actually, because when you come out on Mondays and you see another Igbo people killing you, I think that we are not that united, and that's not very good. So he said good things about stopping issues like that. So hopefully he's gonna make it that we should be able to move around, go to work, go to open our shops without another Igbo person attacking you. We want to be speaking with one voice, feel united, and move on as a people.
Mr. Obiokoye, I'd like to put the same question to you. What are the expectations of the Anambra people, from your perspective? Are you there, Mr. Obiokoye?
I said, I must tell you that the expectations are quite high. And that stems from the very tall profile of Professor Soludo. The people of Anambra voted for him because they believed that he had the requisite profile, the requisite knowledge, the requisite reach, and the requisite experience to turn around the economy of the state. And of course, added to that was what the rare humility of the present governor, who said openly that Soludo was going to perform better than him. We haven't seen any former governor or any predecessor speak that of his successor. That puts a lot of pressure on Professor Soludo. He can't afford to fail because the expectation of the people is quite high. In the area of economy, everybody looks at him as an expert in that area, having been a professor in economics, having gone through central bank and performed wonderfully well, having worked in the World Banks and so on and so forth, consulted for over 25 nations. We are expecting something, like he said, that he was bringing him all this is international experience and national experience, and he's bringing it home to the people of Anambra State. And that is quite a tall order for him. And the much we can do for him is to pray that he succeeds. He will only succeed where there's encouragement, where there's support by the people, where there is unbridled opposition, even when you're doing things right. It does not bring for the progress of a state. That is where the unity of the state comes into play. Irrespective of political leaning, the people must be united in the drive to put the economy right. The people must be united in the drive to secure the environment. So moving forward, we are expecting that he's going to succeed, given his profile. We are also praying that all stakeholders, irrespective of political interests, must unite, knowing that the bigger Anambra is always a virtue for all of us.
Well, Barrister, there's something that our guest in the studio here, Mr. Anuzurike, said, that the people felt quite unsafe before the elections. And I don't know if that is just because of the elections or because that's been the trend for a little while. And one wonders what government had done to allay those fears that people had hitherto.
I can address that.
Yeah.
If there's one area you can speak proudly of the current administration, is in the area of security. That was why he won this government of Governor Obiano, won a lot of awards regionally and sub-regionally.
But that's not the experience people have had in recent time.
I'm coming to that.
Okay, go ahead.
And I'm coming to address that directly. Whatever you see has happened in Anambra in the last few weeks, in the last few months, started around February. Around February 2021. Before February 2021, we had a relatively peaceful state compared to every other part of the country. But moving towards the election, and mark my words today, watch out for the security situation in Anambra in the next 1 month. You'll find out that all things were a build-up towards November election. A lot of characters were so desperate about winning the election. They imported all sorts of violence towards that election. And now that the election has come and gone, watch Anambra. You will see that all that pressure, all that gun shooting, all that charade will go with it. Because we've always had safety. We have always had a secured Anambra state in the last 6 years. Like I said, it all started in February. And now that the election is over, we are going to have a peaceful state again.
Okay. Well, Mr. Madukife, your expectations as we get into a new government in Anambra State. You have said, though, that the opposition party in the state, the APC, is going to take the lead in holding the government of the day to account. But what are your expectations?
Thank you very much. You're right, I've dealt in part with that. I am glad that, Barrister Okoye never considered it necessary to say something about local government elections. But of course, I expect that they won't have anything to say. I hear him loudly say that there should be unbridled, or there shouldn't be unbridled, that was his words, opposition. Even when government is doing right, like in taking 247 billion of Anambra money. I will leave all that and face the future when I say the people of Oba, the people of Ichi, the people of Aguku, and all other places who had no opportunity to vote, they should not feel marginalized. Nobody is doing that because he hates them. They are doing that because a process is failing and it will be redressed better with our pressure. So the people, that the APC will hold the government accountable for every promise it has made. I heard him say that nobody has said his successor will do better than him. No, I heard Peter Obi say that in St. Patrick Cathedral, Oka, that Obiano will do better than him. Peter Obi is disappointed.
No, certainly not. Certainly not. Don't change the narrative.
I'm on the floor. I am holding the floor.
I agree, but don't change the narrative.
Allow him, Barrister Okoye, allow him to, you will have a right of response.
Thank you.
But I will not allow him to change the narrative.
Thank you very much. So, Peter Obi feels highly disappointed, and we can only begin to do some repairs because a lot of damage has been done to Anambra State. We crippled all our savings, all our roads degenerated. If we would like to run on the records of APGA, nobody will elect anybody else. So let's just build for the future. When we say we are not going to have a government that will allow to promise that will be independent power projects and fail. We're not going to allow a government that says there will be 4 pillars and fail in agriculture, in oil, in commerce, and industry, only to be given false narratives. What we will do is that we will ask Soludo what he plans to do with erosion, which he gave a very comprehensive theoretical address on. We would like to know what he wants to do with erosion in Anambra State, so he don't take away his home. We've already talked about local government. We are going to be watching the internally generated revenue closely because it fell to disaster level under Obiano, and we expect something to improve. And we will say it when we see it. And we will say it with statistics that could not have been faulted here. Thank you very much.
Well, Barrister Okoye, yes, please go ahead. But also address some of the allegations that he made that, you know, well, the state savings was reduced for whatever reason. Please go ahead.
You see, why I laugh is that the campaigns have come and gone, and the people have spoken. If all these rhetorics of his meant anything to the people of Anambra State, then they should have won at least one local government. APC should be ashamed that they could not win one local government. With all these rhetorics, we couldn't.
They won one.
Oh dear. That's not a good sign.
Oh dear. Mr. Okoye, are you there?
Yes, he's back.
Okay.
Please go ahead.
Yes,
Okay.
I'm back. I said, if the people felt the way he was singing, then there was no way we would have won 19 out of the 21 local government areas. And there was no way APC would have not won at least one local government area. One, with all these rhetorics. So the real story is that the people of Anambra have spoken, and that we are moving ahead. We are moving ahead with the best candidate who has won the election to put Anambra in a better projectile. When we talk about local government elections, which he keeps talking about, I remember that the bill for the caretaker transition to chairmanship was done around 2003, when the leader of APC was the governor of Anambra State. That was Dr. Chris Ngige. And one thing we have gained is that using that law, there is a synergy between government and the local government in projects. I have always said, show me any local government in Nigeria where the local government chairman has put in as much as 60 million in every community. For us, we had a choose yourself project where we did phase 1, 20 million, phase 2, 20 million, then phase 3, 20 million for every community, 179 communities. This is what we used, part of the money due to the local government in doing. So in Anambra State, every community had the project chosen by them and used by their own resources to the tune of 60 million naira. There's no way in the country it has happened. You may find one or two communities, maybe in Lagos or Kaduna or Abuja, where the local government chairman puts in as much as 50 million, 70 million, but not in every 179. So, but like I said, if all this sing-song meant anything to the people of Anambra State, they would have won one local government. But since the people of Anambra State did not listen to that sing-song, it means that it is not credible. It means that it has nothing to do with the state of affairs in Anambra State, and it has nothing to do with moving Anambra ahead. We have elected the best, and we will all put our hands together, not as destructive opposition, but as constructive people of Anambra State, stakeholders in moving this state forward.
Well, you haven't spoken to what he raised about the savings of Anambra State being...
Thank you very much. Thank you.
The savings of Anambra State.
Yes.
I want to get that.
Well, Mr. Madu, if you want to speak to that?
Yes.
Yes.
Governor Peter Obi, who was elected under Afghan, is now in PDP. Yes. Executed some long-term saving projects for Anambra State for investment. and took IGR to the level of 1.2 billion per month on the average for Anambra State. These are specifics. Those figures dropped on that Obiano, and in terms of position, from 6th, 7th, we dropped to number 25. He should specifically address that, as well as why the government
Number 25
that
of
he
which
serves
list?
of state nominal state revenues across Nigeria.
Okay.
IGR.
Okay, fine. And then he should speak to the issue of the failure to conduct local government elections.
Okay.
With
All right.
less
That's
than
taken,
6
Mr.
Supreme Court.
Madukife. Yeah, let Vice Okoye respond to this in 1 minute 30 seconds. Please go ahead.
I'll go straight to that of revenue. Let's speak the truth as adults. First of all, revenue under Governor Peter Obi was about 600 million. Under Governor Obiano, he rose to 1.5 billion. That is the truth. Secondly, Governor Peter Obi claimed to have left cash without monumental projects, without legacy projects. What do you leave cash if truly he left 75 billion? Today, we have an international airport and we will have left cash. We have a 10,000 capacity auditorium. We will have left cash. We have a 10,000 capacity stadium. We would have left cash. And so many legacy projects. You see, our own attitude is not about playing to the garage. At the end of the day, we will be proud to show to the people of Anambra State, and that is what they voted for. Like I said, we passed campaign. They raised all these things.
Thank you very much, Barrister Ifatu Obi-Okoye. Thank you very much, Barrister Ifatu Obi-Okoye's essay to Governor Obiano on political matters, and he joined us virtually. Also virtually, Mr. Okilo Madukife joined us, and he's the APC Publicity Secretary in Anambra State. And we had Mr. Lawrence Onozulike in the studio with us, and he's President Igbos for a Progressive Nigeria, IPAN. Thank you all very much, gentlemen, for coming to share your perspectives with us this morning. Sunrise will return in just a moment. Please stay with us.